Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome to Grow Through Gita, session number 40, thematic study. Week after week, we've been selecting various topics based on the principles of this most wonderful, magnificent book, Srimad Bhagavad Gita. And today's topic is quite an interesting one. It is cutting the knots of attachment. So I hope all of us are ready to learn the process of cutting the knots of attachment. What are the tools and techniques that we can use? I am super delighted to see several devotees already logged in. Shailaja Mataji saying Hare Krishna, Shailaja Mataji. Lovely seeing you. Tirumalai Kumaran sir is here. Dandavat pranams to you too, sir. Chetan Prabhu, Hare Krishna, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Yogita Mataji is here. Raghavendra Kulkarni sir, along with his better half, Gita Kulkarni Mataji. Koti Koti pranamagalu to you too. So others who are just logging in, please take a moment to say Hare Krishna so I know that you are here. It's always lovely to have even your virtual association. So Sukruti Krishna Prabhu along with Shubhaprada Devi Mataji, Jai Srila Prabhupada, welcome to the session. Very happy to have you. So let's go ahead and do first things first. Invoke the auspicious blessings of Supreme Lord Krishna, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada and all the great acharyas so that by their mercy we may be able to relish some of the principles of Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, and learn about them as to how we can implement them in our own life. All right. So, Lata Mataji, Hare Krishna to you too. Welcome to the class. So, let me switch my screen. Give me just a moment. I'm just going to pull up something. So that way we can go ahead and chant our prayers. Here we go. All right. So I request that all of you please sit straight wherever you are, like an exclamation mark, not like a question mark, and kindly repeat after me. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagadditaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. 3 times, dear devotees, loudly let us chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Please join me. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. One more time, dear devotees. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So let us offer our humble obeisances and express our deep, sincere, heartfelt gratitude by dedicating today's session unto the lotus feet of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, my most wonderful, most glorious, most beloved spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, founder Acharya of International Society for Krishna Consciousness, ISKCON for short. So praying unto him that may we relish Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. Right. So upfront, I must admit that I was a little pressed for time. I've not really had the time to prepare as much as I would love to. But nevertheless, there are some important points that we will definitely discuss. Let us keep it a little interactive as we go, and hopefully we'll be able to draw out some key lessons in the context of the topic that we are discussing today, that is cutting the knots of attachment. So I would like to start off by sharing a scenario with you, and imagine you are part of that scenario and you'll have to listen to that attentively and tell me what you're going to do. Okay, it's a role play kind of a thing. Meanwhile, Lata Mataji, Raseshwari Mataji, Chetana, Saraswati Mataji, welcome to the class. Hare Krishna. And anybody who has not taken a moment to say Hare Krishna, please do so. So I know that you are here. Don't be incognito. So imagine you are a traffic police officer and you are a very duty conscious traffic officer. You get a call from your manager, from your boss, and he says, where are you? And you say, let's say we are in Bangalore near Bakery Circle. That is where you are posted for the duty, and you are very, very nicely performing your duty. So your boss is telling you that just now near Shivaji Nagar area, there is a car that has been stolen and the thief is heading that way. So he's coming at full speed and we are tracking through our GPS. He's heading that way. So please make sure that you catch the thief. And so you immediately are on your guard. You're waiting. You have taken the car number and everything. And you're watching like a hawk right from that moment. You're watching every single vehicle that's passing by. and in no time you see that a car is heading this way at great speed, and you see that the number you check and it's exactly matching that, and you chase after that car. You've been like really waiting for it, and now that you found it, you're going at full speed chasing, and that fellow also is going at like you know breakneck speed, and then you are also no less. You're chasing after chasing after chasing after. There is about 40 minutes of chasing here and there and everything in Bangalore traffic, imagine, but you're not the one to give up. So you are like right behind, you're tailgating the car, and then he has no choice. After 40 minutes of chasing, he stops, he pulls up the car, and then you get down and you're walking towards the car. Already you're feeling that sense of excitement in your heart, because you know that you have caught the thief. It's the exact car that was stolen. And as you're walking by, the windshield is up, so you really don't know the driver. And then you knock on the windshield, and then you ask him to pull the windshield down. He does. And then your jaws drop and your eyes widen. For a moment, you are stunned. You are literally shocked. You see that the person who was actually stealing the car was none other than your own brother. Your brother who you love more than your life is your younger brother. Since his childhood you have seen, very, very dear to you. So what will you do now? So there is about 30 seconds lag between me speaking and you hearing. So I will patiently wait. I would like to see some responses. Of course, if it was on Zoom or something like that, we could have made it even more interactive. But nevertheless, you can use the chat section in the YouTube live and share with me, what would you do? Your own brother stealing the car. You cannot even imagine that your brother would do something like this. And already the higher ups are tracking the car, and you have found out that it's your own brother. You have successfully caught him, but alas, it's your own sibling. So what will you do at this point? So give me an honest answer. Put yourself in that scenario and tell me, what would you do? So waiting to see some answers come by. I'm watching the chat section. So Janyaji, Hare Krishna, she's saying he will ask why you did to me. What do you mean why you did to me? I'm not very clear. Imagine you are that person, you are the traffic cop who has caught the thief. So you can speak in first person like as though you are the one who has caught. So come on everybody, what would you do? Let's look at some honest answers. Of course, it may take a little while to type also. All right, some answers are coming in. Good. Very good. Sukriti Krishna Prabhu is telling, try to see what best can be done legally correct and try best possible mercy for my brother. Okay, a combination of legally correct and mercy. All right. Rajeshwari Mataji is saying, seems like impossible. Anyways, very calmly, I would ask for an explanation, probably give away the car if he sounded reasonable. Well, but what about the brother getting punished? He's stealing the car. Rajeshwari Mataji. Raghavendra Kulkarni sir is saying, think it positively and try convince about situation and try to keep calm around that location. Well, you can keep all the calm that you want, but what are you going to do? For you, he may be the brother, but for the rest of the world, he is the thief, car thief. So legal action has to be taken against him, isn't it? So you can keep calm, but are the cops going to keep calm? Raghavendra sir. Lata Mataji, as a duty bound, I have to arrest him. All right. Lata Mataji is very duty conscious. Okay. Saujanya ji is saying, Hare Krishna, Mataji, Hare Krishna. Chetan Prabhu is telling, I will first inquire what made him to come to this situation and try to resolve the situation and take him back to good condition where he can get out of this kind of act. Okay, as a brother, you're welcome to do that, but as a traffic cop, will you not arrest him? Like when you give the car back, won't your higher up officers ask, like, where is the thief? You got the car. Brijesh ji, Hare Krishna. Brijesh Yallappa ji, Hare Bol. Welcome to the class. Saraswati Mataji saying, will surely grab the car and get him to the station to be punished. All right, very duty bound. Okay. Brijesh ji saying, have come late. Can you repeat the question, please? All right. Well, we just created a scenario. So everybody is in a role play right now where you are actually the traffic officer and you got a call from your boss saying that a person has stolen the car and he's heading in the area that where you are doing your duty, and you successfully find that car, exact number, and then you chase after the car. After 40 minutes, you've caught the thief, and then you walk up to the car, pulling to the roadside, and then you ask the driver to pull down the windshield, and he does, and you are stunned. You are shocked to see that that thief is none other than your own brother. So my question was, what would you do? So we got a variety of answers actually, Brajeshji. Very interesting. So well, I created this role play in order to convey this is where the attachment versus the duty comes into play. On one side, you are inclined towards somehow, like Sukruti Krishna Prabhu was telling, I'll try my best to get some mercy for my brother. So your attachment is nudging at you, is pulling you in one direction, but also your duty as a traffic officer. Tirumalai Kumaran sir is, I'll let him go. Okay. So he's leaning heavily towards the attachment side. So on one side is the attachment towards the brother, and on the other side is your duty as an officer. So you know these two are at odds. So it's a very tricky situation, right? It's heart versus the brain. A couple of you were very, very duty bound, very objective. You said it doesn't matter if he's my brother, he's stolen the car, so everybody is equal under the law, so he has to be punished. I will arrest him. And somebody like Tirumalai Kumaran sir is saying, I'll just let him go. So he's leaning towards attachment side. And some of you are still not sure what to do. You're saying, I'll ask him for an explanation, this and that and everything, but you've not really come to a conclusion. So, well, this was the very similar situation. Of course, nowhere as small as this, but to a greater extent, the dilemma of Arjuna, attachment versus duty. Attachment versus duty. So, when Arjuna also tells Krishna, in chapter 1, shloka 28 of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, he says Swajanam. That's the specific word he says. Because if you remember, Arjuna has fought many wars in the past. This is not the first time. As a Kshatriya, seeing blood, killing and getting killed is nothing new to him. But what was so special about the Kurukshetra war that he was hesitating to fight? What was so special about the Kurukshetra war that he was having a mental breakdown? He was exhibiting all the symptoms of stress. He was confused, mental level, physical level, all kinds of anxiety. Well, because he was duty bound as a Kshatriya to protect the citizens, to kill the evil people. But on the other side, Swajana, he said this war is very different because I'm fighting against my own people. I'm attached to them. And especially the two people he was very attached to, that is his grandfather Bhishma and his teacher Dronacharya. So just like you are also caught between your duty as a traffic officer and then your attachment towards your dear brother, Arjuna also was caught between his attachment for his Swajana versus his duty as a Kshatriya, as a king, as a Rajarishi. So this dilemma of versus attachment versus duty will just become more and more pronounced if we have attachment to a greater degree. And it shows up in all kinds of forms. Right from your alarm clock going off in the morning. If your attachment to sleep is greater than your duty consciousness to wake up and do your japa and do your arati or do your reading or whatever it is that you do in the morning, if your attachment to sleep is greater than that, then it is highly likely that you are going to hit the snooze button and go back to sleep. But if you are not so much attached to the sleep, but you are more duty conscious, it's very likely that you will just get up at the first ring. So from the moment of waking up and all through the day, these things keep on nudging at us. The conflict between attachment versus duty. So in fact, the whole Bhagavad Gita is a very systematic and elevating instruction manual where Krishna is trying to get Arjuna to the level of just performing his duty, and not just as a duty but as a loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord. How to turn his work into worship towards Krishna, overcoming the attachments. So the objective of today's session is also to analyze this topic of attachment and then also look at some practical tips how to cut the knots of attachment. Because if we don't cut the knots of attachment, it will become an impediment in performing our duty. And the highest duty that we have to perform is at the spiritual level, our duty towards serving the Lord, our duty towards enlightening, walking towards the enlightenment of our own soul, of God realization and self-realization. So if we don't cut the knots of these material attachment, it becomes obstacle on the path of God realization. So, but actually, this attachment is the root cause of suffering. So many a times we say, this is bothering me, that person is bothering me, the situation is actually getting me down, my health condition is bothering me, this, so many things. But all the suffering, the root causes attachment. So for that, all you have to do is a simple exercise. Just pull up your phone and go on your social media platforms like Instagram or Facebook or something like that, and just start scrolling through. As you're scrolling through, you will inevitably see that somebody is getting married, somebody is gotten engaged, or somebody is having a breakup in their relationship. Let's say somebody has just entered college and somebody has graduated from college, somebody has had a baby, somebody lost their job, somebody found their job. So as you're scrolling, the ones that are going to actually affect you are the people with whom you have some kind of attachment. If you're scrolling just like that and you see that somebody somewhere, it just came up on your feed and they got married, it's like, that's okay. Or if you're seeing, going through and see that somebody in Burma, there was a baby who was born and it has some kind of deformation at the time of birth, you may feel sad for it just for a moment, having 3 days later, you may feel bad for the parents and the baby, but then you keep scrolling through. But when does it really affect you? When your own friend, dear friend is getting married, or when your own cousin has found a new job, or your niece has graduated from college, or somebody who is related to you, to the extent that you are attached to them, and when something good or bad is happening to them, you get affected. So basically it is attachment. So also this attachment is very much closely related to our identification. What do we identify as? Like if somebody is in a bad marriage, their identity as a married person, having married to this person, they think that this is the cause of my suffering, and they try to change that identity, maybe by getting a divorce. So by changing the identity from being married to becoming single again, that's how they're ending their suffering because of that attachment, because of that identification. Or let's say, for example, somebody is in Syria. So Syria is a very war-prone country. So somebody may be like really frustrated being in this country, so much of war going on, so much of violence. So their identity as a Syrian is becoming the cause of their suffering, and then they may think that, oh, let me just go to America somehow and stay there and become a resident there. And that identity change from being a Syrian to becoming an American end that suffering. Or let's say there is a teenager who is living with his parents, and he thinks that there is so much of generation gap between his parents and him, and he thinks that living with my parents is such a source of misery. So his identity of being their son and living with them, he thinks is the cause of suffering, and the way he is ending that suffering is maybe finish his college and then get a job and just move out of the house and live on his own. So that way he's ending that misery. Another example, maybe somebody doesn't like the job they are in. They don't like their boss, they don't like the work culture, they don't like anything about the job that they are in. So being an employee of a XYZ company is the cause of their suffering. So they try to quit that job and find another job or do something on their own. And the change of identity from this company to another company, they think, okay, is going to make me happy and end my suffering. So attachment, we should understand that it is very, very closely tied to identification. So right now, our identification is misidentification, false identification. It's all on the bodily platform, just like Arjuna had. And Krishna points it out right at the beginning in 2.11, saying that you are not the body, you're the soul. And why are you saying this concept of Swajana? Because you think I and mine, aham and mama, it is my body and everything related to my body are mine. So this attachment and identification are very, very, very closely related. You cannot deal with one without dealing with the other. So let's keep that in mind. So all of our suffering is coming from attachment, and attachment is as a result of our misidentification. So at this point, I want to draw your attention to two important shlokas from chapter 2 of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So chapter 2 shlokas 64 and 65. I'm going to display it on the screen. And if you also happen to have a copy of Bhagavad Gita, please pull it up so you can chant along with me. Very, very beautiful shlokas. Especially 2.64 is one of my favorite shlokas. Here we go. So this is the 64th shloka. So please repeat. Raga, Dvesha, Vimuktaistu, Vishayan, Indriyaihi, Charan, Atmavashyai, Videyatma, Prasadam, Adhigacchati. One line at a time, dear devotees, please chant. It's very purifying, beautiful shloka, very meaningful. Ragadvesha vimuktaistu. Ragadvesha vimuktaistu. Vishayan indriyaishcharan. Vishayan indriyaishcharan. Atmavashyirvideyatma. Atmavashyirvideyatma. Prasadam adhigacchati. Prasadam adhigacchati. Let's do the complete shloka now and then we'll get into the meaning. Ragadvesha vimuktaistu vishayan indriyaishcharan. Atmavashyirvideyatma prasadam adhigacchati. So let's see the word to word meaning and then the translation. Raga, attachment, dvesha and detachment Vimuktaihi, by one who has become free from tu, but Vishayan, sense objects, Indriyaihi, by the senses, Charan, acting upon, Atmavashyai, under one's control, Videya Atma, one who follows the regulative freedom, Prasadam, the mercy of the Lord, Adhigacchati, attains. Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. But a person free from all attachment and aversion and able to control his senses through regulative principles of freedom can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. We'll repeat that one more time. But a person free from all attachment and aversion and able to control his senses through regulative principles of freedom can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. How many of you would like to get Krishna's prasadam? So prasadam is not just the samosas and gulab jamuns. Of course, they are wonderful, simply wonderful, like Prabhupada says. But prasadam means in general the mercy of the Lord. And Krishna's mercy comes in various ways. So how many of you would love to get Krishna's mercy? Become a recipient of Krishna's divine mercy? How many of you would like to receive Krishna's divine mercy? Say yes in the chat section. Algo Maniji, vanakkam to you too. Hare Krishna. Sukruti Krishna Prabhu is telling Hare Krishna Mataji, then how to mitigate suffering, please kindly guide. Yes, Prabhu, will get to that. We'll definitely get to that. Leelavati Mataji is telling Hare Krishna Mataji. Sukruti Krishna Prabhu is telling I want Krishna's mercy. All right. Anybody else on board who wants Krishna's mercy? I'm sure all of us want, because I know some of you personally very much. We all want to receive Krishna's divine mercy. So here, Krishna is mentioning something that we need to do at the mental level and something that we need to do at the physical level in order to get this mercy. So at the mental level, the very first line Krishna is saying, Raga Dvesha Vimuktaestu. Becoming free. Mukta means to be free. Vimukta means to be fully free, completely free. So Krishna is telling to completely be free from raga and dvesha. Raga is positive attachment, dvesha is negative attachment, but both of them are the two sides of the same coin called attachment. So you see, everybody is saying, all of us, of course. Yogita Mataji, yes, I want. Lataji, even I want. Saraswati Mataji, I want the mercy of Krishna by the mercy of Krishna. Very interesting. Raghavendra Kulkarni sir is telling we all want, all right, definitely. So at the mental level, we need to get rid of raga and dvesha. So that is why in today's class, we're focusing on getting rid of attachment. To the extent that we are attached, to that extent, we cannot receive the prasadam of Krishna. And at the physical level, senses level, Krishna is telling Vishayan Indriyaishcharan, to take control of your senses, to keep them away from Vishaya, sense objects. To keep the senses away from the sense objects, not to indulge in sense gratification, that is the tapasya at the physical level. And also, Atmavashyar Videyatma, follow the regulated principles of freedom. Regulative principles of freedom. So this is the 3-point formula Krishna is saying. So one, get rid of all your raga and dvesha, free from sense gratification, and follow the regulative principles of freedom. With all these three, Krishna is telling, prasadam adhigacchati, you will attain my mercy. Now the next thing, quickly we will see the next shloka, because somebody may ask, why should I, what is the importance of getting Krishna's mercy? Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanir astyopajayate prasanna cheta sohyashu buddhi paryavatishtate. Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanir asyopajayate prasanna chetaso hyashu buddhi paryavatishtate. Prasade, on achievement of the costless mercy of the Lord, sarva of all, dukkhanam, material miseries, hanihi, destruction, asya, his, upajayate, takes place, prasanna chetasaha, of the happy-minded, he certainly, ashu, very soon, buddhihi, intelligence, pari, sufficiently, avatishtate, becomes established. So you see the very first line, Prasade Sarva Dukkhana. So as soon as we receive the mercy of the Lord, Sarva Dukkhana, we get rid of all the miseries. So here is the translation. For one thus satisfied in Krishna consciousness, the threefold miseries of material existence exist no longer. In such satisfied consciousness, one's intelligence is soon well established. So just now Prabhu was asking, like, how do we get rid of the suffering? How do we mitigate the suffering? By receiving Krishna's mercy. How do we get Krishna's mercy? The 3-point formula. So especially we will focus on the very first line, Raga Dvesha Vimuktaistu. So in order to understand this Raga Dvesha Vimuktaistu, let's talk about three brothers. Ravana, Kumbhakarna and Vibhishana. So Ravana was loved both by Kumbhakarna and Vibhishana alike. But in the case of Kumbhakarna, when he was awake, he was forced to get up from his 6 months of sleep, which he could not complete. They said it's an emergency. Ravana has told that you need to come immediately. Rama is already here along with his Vanarasena, and there is a war happening because Ravana has kidnapped Mother Sita, the wife of Sri Lord Ramachandra. So at this point, Kumbhakarna, after with great difficulty, they woke him up and he walks up to Ravana and he says, "My dear brother, this is not right to kidnap another man's wife. So why don't you just return her back to Lord Rama?" And we know Ravana doesn't concede to this. He doesn't agree to this proposal. So Kumbhakarna was definitely affectionate towards Ravana. He gave him good counsel, but Ravana would not budge. And Ravana in fact says, "Well, first you go and fight. In case you get killed, let me see. I may back." I don't think he even says he may back off. He says, first you go fight. In case you get killed, let's see. Something like that. And then Kumbhakarna, in spite of, he was not only affectionate towards his brother, he was also attached to Ravana. So in spite of knowing that this is wrong, Kumbhakarna still went and fought against Lord Rama, and of course he was killed. And Ravana, no good counsel, and even the death of Kumbhakarna could not stop him. He could have called off the war, but he does not. He does not return Mother Sita, and then Ravana ends up being killed. So keep this in mind that Kumbhakarna was both affectionate and attached towards Ravana. So affection is good, attachment is not good. Affection is at the level of spirit. You actually want the welfare of that person. But attachment is you only want to please that person. Even if it is wrong, you just want to do it simply to be in the good books of that person, simply to please that person. But on the contrary, we see Ravana's younger brother Vibhishana, he also was affectionate towards Ravana. He also gave good counsel to Ravana. He said, "You please return. Mother Sita, she is none other than Lakshmi Devi." But when Ravana was reluctant to take his advice, in fact, Ravana orders his ministers to throw Vibhishana away, and Vibhishana was not attached to Ravana like Kumbhakarna was. Vibhishana immediately leaves the kingdom of Lanka. He comes and takes shelter of Lord Ramachandra. And what happens? Eventually, Lord Vibhishana is coronated by Lord Rama himself as the king of Lanka after the demise of Ravana. In fact, Lord Rama coronated him even before that. So Vibhishana was affectionate towards Ravana. He gave him good counsel. He wanted his welfare. He was his suhrit, well-wisher. But Kumbhakarna was not only affectionate but was also attached. So yet another example of a person who was not only materially blind but also was spiritually blind, who was extremely attached to his evil son. No prizes for guessing. It is the evil Dhritarashtra. In the very first shloka of Bhagavad Gita, the material attachment is exposed. When Dhritarashtra says, Kim akurvata Sanjaya, what did my sons and the sons of Pandu do? Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre Samavetaayuyutsavaha Mamaka Pandavaschaiva Kim akurvata Sanjaya. So we see immediately how Dhritarashtra is separating the sons of Pandu from his own sons. And there is no hope, he knows that. Why? Because Vyasa Maharishi already gave him the news that every single one of his sons is going to be killed in the battlefield. But in spite of that, Dhritarashtra was so attached not only to his sons but also to his own seat and power that he lets the war happen. So in the very first shloka of Bhagavad Gita, we see the material attachment of Dhritarashtra towards his own sons. So now I have given you already two good examples of material attachment as given in Shastra. Then there are so many others actually, which I already have in my mind some. But before I reveal them, can you also give some work to your brain, to your intellect, and please mention some characters from Mahabharata, from Ramayana, from Srimad Bhagavatam, who were materially attached, because of which they did not perform their duty, because they were blinded by the attachment. Can you think of some examples? Let's see if you can come up with a few. Any examples of characters who displayed attachment? Okay, Shailaja Mataji is talking about Ajamila. I guess you're talking about his attachment to this prostitute wife, because of whom he forgot all his duty, I guess, because of his attachment to her. Okay, good example. Any other examples? Sukruti Krishna Prabhu, Bharat Maharaj to deer. Good example. We are going to touch upon that also again a little later. Raseshwari Mataji, Dhritarashtra, I already gave it away, so you need to come up with some other answers. And there are so many actually. Many examples. Let's see if you can think of a few. Raghavendra Kulkarni sir is telling Bhakta Prahlada versus Hiranyakashipu. In what context are you saying? Who was attached to who, sir? Okay, Shailaja Mataji is saying yes, Mataji. Good. Raseshwari Mataji, Ravana. Ravana also I already said Mataji, so give me some other examples. Gita Mataji, already King Bharat is covered. Sudev Prabhu is telling Daksha to his pride. All right. Interesting. Okay. Good. Very good. So what about Kaikeyi, who was attached to Bharata, because of which she gave her ears to Mantara's evil words, evil instructions, and then she became the cause of exiling Lord Rama into the forest for 14 long years. What was the cause? Attachment to Bharata. And let's say another example could be Uttanapada, Dhruva's father. So Uttanapada was so attached to his second wife Suruchi that even the basic loving gesture of a father, when Dhruva wanted to sit on the lap of his father, Uttanapada would not let him. Because of his attachment to Suruchi, even when Suruchi was insulting Dhruva with harsh words, and Uttanapada did not say anything in protest to that. because he was so attached to her. He was so blinded by his attachment for her. So Uttanapada is another example. Kaikeyi, I already gave you that example. Like that, there are so many examples actually. Kaikeyi to Bharat, correct. Lata Mataji is telling Vishwamitra, okay, in what context Mataji? Shantanu Prabhu, Hare Krishna, welcome to the live class. He's saying Bilvamangal Thakur, okay, okay. He was also attached to Chintamani, the prostitute. Yeah, but she became a cause for his spiritual upliftment later. Yeah, good example, very good example, very, very good example. So there are so many examples actually from the scriptures. Somebody mentioned about Bharat Maharaj. See, this is where the affection can turn into attachment, where we have to be careful. I'll touch upon this example again in a little while. Oh, okay. Sukruti Krishna Prabhu. It's not Saurabha Muni. His name is another. What was his name? Yeah, correct, correct. Cursed Garuda and all that. Yes, I know who you're talking about, but he's not Saurabha Muni. He is. It's there on my tongue. It's just not coming out actually. But I know who you're talking about. Yeah, very nice. Good examples. So a good list of examples actually. So why are we discussing all this? The attachment versus affection. So cutting the knots of attachment does not mean from today all your non-devotee family members you become hard-hearted towards them and say that I have nothing to do with you. I don't want to be attached to you because you're an impediment for my spiritual progress. No. So as devotees, we should know the difference between affection and attachment. Attachment is only at the bodily level. Like for example, if a man is the householder, a grihastha, if he is thinking that I need to provide for my family, I have to put food on the table, I have to take them out for vacation, for some good sightseeing, I have to get some toys for my children, I have to make sure that they get good education, I have to send them to the school, roti, kapda, makan thing have to be taken care of. If only he is thinking at providing at the bodily level, it is simply attachment. You are desiring the happiness of your family members, but it's only at the platform of body. And also when you're dealing with others only in the sense of mental, physical level of exchange like this, there is also a sense of obligation that I did this to you, so you're obligated to do this to me. But affection goes beyond this physical platform, and it is actually you are wanting the welfare of the jiva. You're able to see that you may be playing the role of my wife, my son, my daughter, my mother, my father, my husband, my wife, but you're actually a spirit soul. So affection is at the level of the soul. You want the welfare of the jiva, and the highest welfare of the jiva is when they re-establish their connection with Krishna. So, but while we are affectionate, of course, we have to also take care of their bodily needs, but that is not all in all. So, this is the difference between attachment and affection. So, as devotees, we have to make sure that we are affectionate towards all the jivas. Now, you may say, but some of my family members are not devotees. Well, but that is no reason to be not affectionate towards them, because every jiva is a potential devotee. In fact, they are devotees, only it is a matter of time before they actually exhibit the qualities of a devotee. Just like how we became devotee, you became a devotee, I became a devotee, or we are trying to be. Because somebody showed their mercy, Krishna showed his costless mercy through somebody. So like this, when that awakening, when that inspiration comes for this jiva, so it's miracles happen every day. So we don't know when they will become a devotee. Today they are not, tomorrow they may become. So we should see everybody is a potential devotee, that it's only time factor that is differentiating, and we also should know that it is only their ignorance that keeping them away from becoming a devotee. And not only towards our family members who are not devotees, but also towards other people. Sometimes we tend to brush them away and say these are karmis. These are fruitive mentality workers. I want to do nothing with them. Now that's a very neophyte way of looking at it. Usually we tend to do that because our own bhakti is not so stable and secure. So we feel like if I associate with this person who is quote unquote not a devotee, we feel like it will affect my devotion as well and it will pull me down. So in some cases that's true because we ourselves are so unstable. So because of their association, it may degrade us, derail us, yes. So at the neophyte level, that's kind of okay as a cautionary thing. But if we see as devotees progress, the more and more devotees become advanced. They don't brush off anybody saying that he's a non-devotee, this is a karmi. Again, they are also jiva because Krishna is telling Mamai Vamsho, Jiva Bhuta, Jiva Sanatana. So Krishna is telling Mamai Vamsha, these are all my amshas, these are all, everybody is my part and parcel. So how can we say I love Krishna but I don't love the parts and parcels of Krishna? That's incomplete. Just like we say, right? If you love me, then you have to love my dog too. If you love me, but if you don't love my dog or if you don't love my people who are associated with me, I may be offended. In fact, maybe even more than if you don't love me. So similarly, we can't say I love Krishna, but I don't love Krishna's parts and parcels. Krishna will not be that pleased with it. So we must see everybody in that light. That today they may be a karmi, but tomorrow they can become a devotee, just like we were also once upon a time, in certain situation, and then because of Krishna's mercy, we are at this stage. But we should also make sure that when we are dealing with these people, it is affectionate way, not attachment way. So it is not attachment, but it is affection. And also another way of knowing the difference between affection and attachment is that in attachment, there is emotional dependency between the people. And also our self-worth is determined based on whether that person likes me or doesn't like me. So for example, Karna, right? It's a matter of attachment to Duryodhana. It was not affection but attachment. Karna's whole sense of self-worth became that Duryodhana should like me. Whatever I do should please Duryodhana. So there was that emotional dependency that he's given me this kingdom, Angaraj, so Angadesha. So he became obligated to him. So that was a question of attachment. So in many relationships also it comes to the level of attachment. But when it comes to affection, we say that I want to see you like really your spiritual upliftment. In fact, that is why the shloka goes, don't become a husband if you cannot cause the welfare of your wife in helping her go back home, back to Godhead. Don't become a father. Don't become a mother if you cannot help your child get out of the clutches of Maya. Don't become a guru if you cannot help your disciple get out of the cycle of birth and death. So this is affection. You want the spiritual well-being. And the consequence of relationships where there is only attachment and there is no affection is exploitation. And not only exploitation, and even if you are actually doing something good for them, it usually causes distress, unfulfillment. And also when it is related to attachment, if you love someone more than they deserve to be loved, you will get pain from that person more than you deserve to get the pain. So let me repeat that. When you are having a dealing of attachment between two or more jivas, if you love someone more than they deserve to be loved, that person will become the cause of pain for you more than you deserve to be hurt. This is law of action and reaction. So wherever we are more attached, that is the source of pain for us. It's a given. It's only a matter of time. So also another very, very distinguishing feature between attachment and affection is that in attachment, sense enjoyment is in the center, False ego is in the center, bodily relationship is in the center, wanting to please that other person and in turn to be pleased by that person, to be loved and to be loved is the central theme. But in affection, Krishna is in the center. So the people who are related, they're actually related in terms of Krishna, like husband and wife. When Krishna is in the center, when divine couple is in between the couple, then actually they are spiritual partners, helping each other go back to Godhead in the service of the Lord. So attachment versus affection. We have to be very careful not to be attached, but at the same time, we should not become insensitive, hard-hearted, even to non-devotees, even to other species, even to other religion people. Because even they are also Mamai Vamsho, they are also parts and parcels of Krishna. And Prabhupada exhibited this to hippies, to even one small ant, any caterpillar, even a tree. When they were building the ISKCON temple in Juhu, the government wanted to cut off the tree. But Prabhupada very strongly opposed. Prabhupada said the tree needs to be there. Don't unnecessarily cut any jiva, don't eliminate. So the tree is even there and it's a pretty big tree right in the middle of the street actually. So Prabhupada was affectionate towards everybody. Prabhupada was affectionate even to his disciples, parents who were not quote-unquote devotees. Prabhupada would go out of his way to welcome even the parents of the disciples in a very loving way, make sure they're comfortable, give them some prasadam. Prabhupada was very, very polite and kind in dealing with them, with everybody actually. So as the disciples of Prabhupada, we should also walk in his footsteps. So we should remember to be affectionate to all the jivas, but definitely not get attached. But Bharat Maharaj's example, a couple of you mentioned that. So here we should be careful. Sometimes we may start the relationship with affection, but later it may turn into attachment. Like for Bharat Maharaj, initially it was like, oh, there is this helpless fawn, this baby deer, so let me take care of it. Its mother got shot by the hunter. So he was feeding it, bathing it, taking care of it. But eventually it became to a level where he was so attached, he could not spare even a moment without thinking about the deer. He was always constantly thinking, where is it if it is out of his sight? Even when he was eating, honoring prasadam, he would think, has the deer eaten or not? So at every moment, he ended up thinking, getting so attached to the deer, and eventually, yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajat yante kalevaram. So when he left his body thinking of the deer, he became a deer. But on the contrary, sometimes even attachment can become affection. Like maybe your mother loves you, she may not necessarily love Krishna and ISKCON, but because of her attachment to you, eventually seeing you nicely serving the Lord, being happy and whatever, eventually they may also become devotees of the Lord. So attachment also can turn into affection. That is a good thing. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is this wonderful example of Shivananda Sena, a wonderful devotee, associate of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Every year he would take 200 to 300 devotees from Bengal to Puri, Jagannath Puri, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was there. And once he saw that when he was taking so many devotees, one dog, and it was just a normal street dog, and it was following this Kirtan party, and it was not really taking part in Kirtan or anything like that. It was just, it developed a liking for this party, and especially Shivananda Sen. So this dog used to always follow them. And Shivananda Sen also, he was affectionate towards the dog, not attached to the Lord. Because he saw even the dog as a part and parcel of Krishna, but he took care of that dog. He fed the dog and took the dog in the boat. And later when he went to Puri, he saw that after a few days, this dog is actually in Gambhira, the place where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was staying. And this dog was actually having one-to-one with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was telling this dog, chant Hare Krishna. And this dog was chanting Krishna, Krishna. And there was this coconut pulp that Mahaprabhu just ate and he threw it to this dog. So actually this dog got Uchishta of Mahaprabhu, this coconut pulp, and the moment this dog ate that pulp, it literally stood and started raising its front two legs and started dancing and saying, Krishna, Krishna. And after a few days, nobody saw where the dog was. Actually, the dog went back home, back to Godhead, because it took the Uchishta, the remnants of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is none other than Lord Krishna. So here we see a seemingly insignificant dog, because of its attachment to devotee and devotees, eventually it developed affection to the Lord and then it went back home, back to God. So now, how to cut the attachment and keep only the affection? So like we said, it is the misidentification that is the root cause of our attachment. So it is ignorance basically. It is because we are ignorant of our real identity. So the ABCD of spirituality is to gain knowledge, spiritual knowledge. Just like Krishna told Arjuna, the very first ABCD, the first 20 shlokas from 2.11 to 2.30 is all about you are the soul, you are not the body. Same thing, repeat, 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 repeat. And most of the lectures you hear of Prabhupada, 60 to 70%, the basic theme is you are not the body, you are the soul. So many a times we hear this, but are we operating at that realization? Like we are the soul. Is it just a theoretical understanding, but also is it a practical realization? So the number one thing to cut the knots of attachment is to gain spiritual knowledge, to understand who are we, to get the real identity, replace the false ego with real ego, to know who am I. Just like if somebody was adopted and until 18 years they don't know who they are, and at 18 legally they have the right to know, and then once they are told that actually you are the son of so and so, daughter of so and so, simply because of their revelation of identity, immediately there is a strong sense of detachment from the adopted parents. And there is attachment to the biological parents. Not in all cases, most cases. So similarly, the moment we truly realize what is my true identity, who do I belong to, who is my Supreme Father, then immediately there is a sense of detachment from this material world and all the material relationships. So number one thing of how to cut the knots of attachment, how to mitigate our suffering, is to know who we really are. And number two, start acting on that platform. And to act on that platform means to constantly think of our beloved Supreme Lord Krishna. Because once you realize that I'm not only the Supreme Soul, I'm not only the Spirit Soul, but I'm also part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, then that relationship, re-establishing that reawakening of the dormant love in the heart. So that happens by chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So if we are chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra in a very sincere way, especially doing proper Shravanam, and especially doing it like in a very intense way, especially in Brahma Muhurat time, so it rekindles this dormant love. And the more and more our lost relationship with Krishna is getting established, so from material attachment, we are shifting to spiritual attachment to Krishna now. So number one is knowledge, and number two is chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and number three is Shastra Adhyayana, to be deeply rooted in philosophy. So ABCD of spirituality is good to begin with, but we should not get stuck with the ABCD simply knowing that I am the soul, I am not the body, although that's important. We have to do thorough study. Why did Prabhupada sacrifice his sleep and write such wonderful books, translate such wonderful books? It's for you and me to read and understand and apply. So thorough study, Shastra Adhyayana, to cut the knots of attachment. And number four, following the regulative principles also along with chanting. Very, very simple regulative principles: no meat eating, no illicit relationship, and then no gambling, no meat eating, no intoxication of any kind, including coffee and tea, having only prasadam, all that. And also, number 5, to perform devotional service to the Lord. So, the moment we know that we are part and parcel of Krishna, then we should also act as the servant of Krishna. Not only to know that I am the servant of Krishna, but also to act as a servant of Krishna. Perform various services and especially menial services. And try to please Krishna in everything that we do. So right now we are serving our family, we are serving our country, we are serving our company, we are serving so many, even the pets. We are serving our own body and mind, we are serving our false ego. But if we can shift this servitude from all these things that I just mentioned to Krishna and Prabhupada, Guru and Krishna and sadhus, devotees, so that will also cut the knots of attachment. So until now we've talked about 5 of them. Number 1 is to replace ignorance with knowledge. And then Hare Krishna Mahamantra chanting, very, very attentive, especially hearing properly. And number 3 is Shastra Adhyayana, deep philosophical understanding, proper understanding of Tattva, following the regulative principles, the 4 regulative principles given by Srila Prabhupada, and to perform loving devotional service more and more and more of it. And especially while performing service, the bhava, the attitude with which we perform the service, that is most important. And we should also take Kunti Maharani as a wonderful example here. So I have Srimad Bhagavatam here in front of me. If any of you want to, maybe I can pull it up on Veda base actually. Give me just a second. Okay, Sukriti Krishna Prabhu is telling Bhagavad Gita 14.4, Aham Bija Pradapita. Yes, I am the seed giving father of all the living entities. Jivera Swarupa Hoy Nitya Krishna Das. Yes, so we should start acting on that platform of serving. So give me just a second, let me pull up this. We can take Kunti Maharani as a wonderful, wonderful example of cutting the knots of attachment, how ardently she is praying to the Supreme Lord. So in Canto 1, Chapter 8, Shlokas 41 and 42, I'll pull it up right now so you can look at the shlokas on the screen. Yeah, here we go. Okay. So 1.8.41 Srimad Bhagavatam, Grantha Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Ata Vishvesh Vishwatman Vishwamurte Swakeshu me Sneha Pasham Imam Chindi Dridam Pandushu Vrishnishu. Atha Vishvesh Vishwatman Vishwamurte Swakeshu me Sneha Pasham Imam Chindi Dridam Pandushu Vrishnishu. Atha, therefore, Vishva Isha, O Lord of the universe, Vishva Atman, O soul of the universe, Vishva Murte, O personality of the universe, universal form, Swakeshu, unto my own kinsman, may my Sneha Pasham, tie of affection, this is what we're talking about, tie of affection, attachment, Imam, this Chindi, cut off, Dridam, deep, Pandushu for the Pandavas, Vrishnishu for the Vrishnis also. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. O Lord of the universe, soul of the universe, O personality of the form of the universe, please therefore sever my tie of affection for my kinsmen, the Pandavas and the Vrishnis. So how wonderful that this great devotee, Maharani Kunti, Queen Kunti, she's praying unto Krishna in such a heartfelt, sincere way. She's telling, please sever my tie of affection for my kinsmen, both the Pandavas and the Vrishnis. So women especially, both sides, the husband side, the parent side, both the side families, there are close ties. So here Maharani Kunti is requesting, is praying to Krishna, please cut off the knots of attachment on both the sides. Now Krishna may ask, but aren't they actually devotees? Pandavas are devotees, all your 5 sons are wonderful devotees of mine, and Vrishnis are also devotees. In fact, Krishna himself took birth in Vrishni dynasty. Well, what Kunti Maharani is talking about here, if you read the purport, Prabhupada writes brilliant purport that she wants to keep only the affection part in terms of them being devotees, but she does not want to have the bodily attachment with them. So when she says cut the knots of attachment, she is asking to sever the ties at the bodily level, the relationship part. But as the devotee, in that context, she is okay with that. So this is why we were saying we should not be attached to the family members, but we can be affectionate towards them. We can help them become Krishna conscious. We can give them prasadam. If they are open to discussing Krishna Katha, we can share Krishna's pastimes with them, philosophy with them. We can take them to the temple. We can engage them in some service. We can identify what talent they have and somehow engage that talent in Krishna's service. So we can somehow get them connected with Krishna. So we don't have to be attached to them. If we are attached, then we will go down. But if we are affectionate and we are suhrut of them, we are well-wishers of them, then we can try to give them Krishna consciousness. And look at this next shloka that she prays to Krishna. How beautiful actually. Tvai menanya vishaya matir madhupate sakrit Ratim udvahata datta gange vagam udanvati Tvai menanya vishaya matir madhupate sakrit Ratim udvahata datta gange vagam udanvati. Beautiful. Tvai, unto you, may my ananya vishaya, unalloyed, matihi, attention, madhupate, O Lord of Madhu, asakrit, continuously, ratim, attraction, udvahatat, may overflow, adda, directly, Ganga, the Ganges, Iva, like, Ogam, flows, Udanvati, down to the sea. Translation: O Lord of Madhu, as the Ganges forever flows to the sea without hindrance, let my attraction be constantly drawn unto you without being diverted to anyone else. So, in desiring to cut the knots of our own attachment, we can repeat these prayers of Kunti Maharani in front of the Lord and Prabhupada. So, we can also pray to them that with my own endeavors, it is not possible for me to cut these knots of attachment because there are so many Hridaya Granthis, the knots in the heart. But we can say, Krishna, you please cut them. And once you cut them, look at what a beautiful prayer. Say, O Lord of Madhu, as the Ganges forever flows to the sea without hindrance, let my attraction be constantly drawn unto you without being diverted to anyone else. So this is what will happen when we get rid of all the material attachments and instead we replace those material attachments with spiritual attachment to Guru and Krishna. Then by Krishna and Prabhupada's costless mercy, just like the Ganges forever flows to the sea without hindrance, any obstacle it comes, it knows how to maneuver. So similarly, our consciousness also doesn't matter what is happening in our life. At the professional level, personal level, physical level, mental level, ego level, intellectual level, whatever level, but at the consciousness level, at the spiritual level, our consciousness should be always going towards Krishna, constantly. So for that, we need the costless mercy of the Lord. Okay. So this is not like rocket science or anything. These are the things that we already know, but somehow we just don't execute them to the extent that we need to. But Shastra Adhyayana, Hare Krishna Mahamantra chanting, more and more service, And keeping in mind these principles of attachment versus affection, and like we were talked about some examples, Ravana's example, Dhritarashtra's example, Uttanapada's example, Bharat Maharaj's example. So we should keep these in mind, so that way Kaikeyi's example, so we don't degrade our consciousness with attachment and get away from the Lord. Instead, we should be affectionate towards everybody. Still, we keep our soft-heartedness, but Krishna in the center of every relationship. So we should not deal with anybody at the cost of compromising our Krishna consciousness, but we can definitely be affectionate and make as many people Krishna conscious as possible with the mercy of the Lord. So in fact, we see even after hearing the whole Bhagavad Gita at the beginning of Kurukshetra war, when Abhimanyu was killed, Arjuna, in spite of all that wisdom that he received in the form of Bhagavad Gita, he cried his eyes out. As a father, he was sensitive, he was soft-hearted. It was not like he said, well, I know Abhimanyu is not the body, he is the soul. And he did not like he became hard-hearted. He was very sensitive. But the difference between the Arjuna at the beginning of the war and Arjuna who faced Abhimanyu's death, in the beginning, without the wisdom of Gita, that attachment he had for Bhishma, Drona and other relatives stopped him from doing his duty. But now, it was not attachment towards Abhimanyu, but affection. And also, it did not stop him from doing his duty. After Abhimanyu's death, Arjuna did not say, I will not fight the war. That I just have to grieve for the passing away of Abhimanyu. He did not say that. He continued with his duty. He did fight. But at the same time, he was moved as a father. So that should be our condition too. We are still soft-hearted. We are still very sensitive to people's emotions and their needs. But not just at the bodily platform, but our main concern is at the spiritual level, spiritual welfare. But in the way of while taking care of their spiritual welfare, we may also have to take care of their bodily needs, emotional needs and all that. But that is not our all in all primary concern. Our main thing is Krishna. Our main thing is giving Krishna consciousness to the jivas. And meanwhile, we may also take care of their other needs as and when needed. Just like Shivananda Sena. He was affectionate towards the dog. His main thing was to cause spiritual welfare of the dog. But he also took care of the body. He was feeding the dog. He took the dog in the boat while crossing the river. But that was not his primary thing. The intention was to help this jiva in the form of a dog to get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. So that should be our mood also. Okay, so that is briefly about attachment, how it is the root cause of all our suffering, how attachment versus duty. The more we are attached, it keeps us from performing our duty. We did a little small role play for that and discussed a few things. And we also said not only attachment is the root cause of all the suffering, but the root cause of attachment is misidentification, identity problem. So in order to avoid that, we have to replace ignorance with knowledge. We have to go from false identity to real identity. And we also in great detail talked about the difference between attachment versus affection through various examples from Shastra. And we also discussed the two shlokas from Bhagavad Gita, Raga Dvesha Vimuktaistu, right, 2.64, and there are 3 levels, 3-point formula. At the mental level, the austerity is to get rid of positive attachment and negative attachment. And then if we do that, we will get the costless mercy of the Lord. And once we get costless mercy of the Lord, Sarvadukkanam, all the miseries will be mitigated. And then we reiterated, although some points we already know about the chanting, about Shastra Adhyaya, and about the service, and about the regulative principles, and all these various things. But we have to do it more mindfully, without keeping attachment, but only having affection, keeping Krishna in the center of every other relationship that we have. Okay, any questions, comments, anybody? So I did not have much time to prepare for today's class. I was a little pressed for time this week, but it was more like an ad hoc class. But it's still nice to contemplate on a topic like this and become a little bit more conscious of not keeping any material attachments. So any newcomers in the house, please go ahead and subscribe to our other online YouTube channel. And there is a bell icon. If you hit that bell icon, you will also be notified of all the recordings and the live sessions that we do. So you can keep, we will keep you posted on that. And then also, if you feel like you got some value out of today's session, please go ahead and hit that thumbs up button, the like button, and show us some love. And every Saturday from 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. Indian time, we pick different themes from Bhagavad Gita, and then we try to take a deep dive into those topics. So you're welcome to join us every Saturday. Chetan Prabhu is telling, thank you so much, Mataji. Thank you, Prabhu, for being so regular to all the classes. Really appreciate that. Mala Hariji, Hare Krishna, welcome to the session. Happy to have you. So, any comments, feedback, questions? Anybody? Yogita Mataji, you're welcome. Saying thanks, Mataji. You're very welcome. Anybody else? Anything else? Sukruti Krishna Prabhu, Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you for the wonderful transcendental session. Once again, week after week. Thank you, Prabhu, for your kind and encouraging words. Appreciate that. Thank you. So, summer camp batch 2 is starting from Monday. So, it will happen for the next 2 weeks. Some of you have already enrolled your kids. If you have a child between the age group of 8 to 12 and 13 to 19, please consider putting them. You can get in touch with us. I will leave my email ID here. Anybody who wants to get in touch. And if you know of anybody else who can take advantage of this wonderful summer camp, please let them know so they can also join. So there is the email ID. You can get in touch with us. Saraswati Mataji saying, thank you so much for the inspiring session. You're welcome, Saraswati Mataji. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. So, all right, everybody, it's 6:53 p.m. Indian time. So, let's meet again next Saturday then. So, take care, everybody. Let's not make this only a theoretical understanding, but let's try and practice this as much as possible and keep cutting the knots of attachment by the costless mercy of Krishna and Guru. So, take care. We'll be back next Saturday. Hare Krishna. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. समवेत भक्त वृंद की हरि हरि बोल गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल जय श्रील प्रभुपाद. Saraswati Mataji saying, may Krishna bless all of us to become affectionate and less attached to our near and dear ones. Absolutely, Mataji. Tirumalai Kumaran sir, thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna, you're welcome, sir. Hare Krishna. Mala Hariji, what time is classes? My daughter is 6 years. Malaji, get in touch with me. I have already left my email ID there. And so you please leave your phone number when you email me. I will get in touch with you and we can discuss more. Okay, Malaji? I'm again typing the email ID here. All right. Thank you, everybody. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Take care.